So a friend of mine, she's a very, very successful therapist, and she always asks her patients when they come to her and say some terrible thing happened. She said, what would it take for this to be amazing? And so, for example, a lady comes, says, we're getting a divorce. And she says, so what would it take for this to be amazing? And so it just completely shifts the reality of like, okay, how could this be an amazing thing that could happen to me? And this is relevant for me, shifting gears, because we just had a big tryout inside of our company for a presentation slot that we have an event. So we had a bunch of the leaders in the company.
It was like the fucking Hunger Games.
Yeah, we put a cash prize out.
Fight to the death, pitchforks.
We did. No, we put a big cash prize out there. Oh yeah, I totally did that. I told them, I was like, I'll have no expression.
Just in a toga.
Yeah, exactly. And I could tell that some of them were nervous. And I thought about this because, I speak a fair amount and I don't get a lot of nerves in general, and I have a whole bunch of thoughts on that. But the most basic one is that if you're still feeling anxiety, which many of them were like, hey, I'm so nervous, or hey, I have a lot of anxiety before going up. I thought about it, and champions just interpret anxiety as excitement. And if you're excited to go up, then you're like, I'm amped, versus I'm stressed. But it feels the same. The way you frame it totally changes how you feel when you're stepping on stage. But my 2 cents of, if you are feeling lots of anxiety, it means you need to practice more. That's just my 2 cents. And that comes for everything, whether it's to have a meeting or give a presentation or write an email or do a book. Like if you feel nervous before you release it, then you probably didn't work on it enough. And I think the reality is that most people, to get not anxious about whatever they're doing, you have to do it so many times that by the last time you're doing it, you're bored of it. Like you don't even want to see the thing again. When you're sick of it is the point where you'll have no adrenal response to the stimulus because you've seen it so many times. You could do it in your sleep because you hate it at this point. And then when you get up, you're like, oh my God, let's just do this because I can breathe this thing.
Over with.
Yeah. This has been something I've been thinking about a lot, which is basically the shittiness of stuff, which is when you're growing in a business, it's very painful. When you're stagnating in a business and you're plateaued and you don't know what to do, it's very painful. When you're declining and you also don't know what to do, it's very painful. And so that means that all conditions of reality are painful. And so if pain is a prerequisite for reality, then it means it's just a signal that we are alive. And so in thinking about that, rather than pain is a problem, it is a signal that I'm breathing, and then becomes irrelevant.
How do you ensure that you're not suffering unnecessarily? Pain can be a useful signal. It can tell you to move away from certain things that are suboptimal.
Yeah. I probably have relatively contrarian views on this. But just even the judgment on pain, I relatively reject. Just like, pain is good, pain is bad. I mean, in the gym, to give a gym example, they found that the pain that you experience when you're going to work out, and there's a difference between like massive joint, you're like, oh, I just snapped a muscle, and like just feeling bad. But feeling bad has zero correlation to your performance in the gym. And so I remember reading that for the Olympic, weight teams, they talked about that. And I was like, oh, well, if it has no correlation, then it's almost irrelevant and I can just keep living my life. And so I think the ultimate version of the resilience that you were referencing earlier is, rather than, in the beginning, you're like, I feel bad. And then you think that should weigh on the decision of whether you do the thing that you're supposed to do. And then you start realizing that you can do the thing even though you don't feel good about it. And you start hypertrophying it. But I think the ultimate version of the hypertrophy, when the muscle becomes a tendon or it just becomes fused, is when you don't even consider how you feel. It's just not a thought. You just do it.